Hey, welcome back to the Grace-Filled Leader podcast. And this is part 2 this week of our series called The Way We Think About Leadership is Dead Wrong. Last time we flipped the script on leadership and explored the difference between output and influence. Why leadership isn't about doing more, but about showing up with presence, alignment, and spirit-led purpose. And today we're diving even deeper because here's what I've learned. We don't lead better when we work harder. We lead better when we're whole. Now, I know in a world that rewards hustle over functioning, this sounds upside down. But friend, upside down living is exactly how the kingdom works. Let's talk about what leadership looks like when it flows from wholeness, body, mind, and spirit, and how emotional overinvestment, perfectionism, and people-pleasing masquerade as good leadership, but are really symptoms of stress and identity confusion. Are you a busy woman in leadership who feels pulled in 1,000 directions? Do you wrestle with perfectionism, people-pleasing, or never feeling like you're enough no matter how successful you are on paper? Are you longing for more time, more peace, and more energy to live and lead the way God intended? Sister, you are right where you need to be. Hi, I'm Tanya, a wife, mom, healthcare leader, Christian life coach, and functional health practitioner. I spent decades hustling for my worth through achievement and approval, only to end up burned out and exhausted. But God showed me a better way, a grace-fueled way, and now I help women just like you break free from people-pleasing and overwhelm, lead well, live well, and be well. Here we blend spirit-driven success with practical leadership, wellness, and mindset strategies so that you can multiply your time and impact without sacrificing your health or your family. If you're ready to lead well, live healthier, and finally find the peace and purpose God has waiting for you, you are in the right place. So roll up your sleeves, sister friends. It's time to reclaim your time, restore your joy, and lead from grace. And just as a reminder, the information you hear on this show is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. We've all seen it. The high-performing leader who looks impressive from the outside but is hanging on by a thread behind the scenes. And maybe we've been her. Let me break down a few patterns that I've lived and coached women through. Patterns that look like great leadership but actually leave us very depleted. First is overfunctioning. Overfunctioning is when you do for others what they can and should be doing for themselves, and you anticipate problems before they happen. You fill in the gaps before anyone asks, you micromanage, or you over-prepare out of fear of failure. It feels like service. It often wins applause, but underneath, it's usually fueled by anxiety, control, or fear of being perceived as not enough. Overfunctioning is the counterfeit of faithful stewardship. It's leadership driven by pressure, not peace. The second pattern is people-pleasing. People-pleasing or approval-seeking often flies under the radar as being a relational leader. And yes, relationships matter deeply. But when you say yes when you mean no, or avoid confrontation to stay liked, or lose sleep over someone's opinion, boy, have I done that a time or two, or let your team's happiness dictate your direction, done that a time or 10, you are not leading, you are managing perception. People-pleasing is a form of self-protection, not servant leadership. True leadership sometimes disappoints people in order to honor God. The third pattern is perfectionism. Perfectionism sneaks in as excellence, but perfectionism isn't about doing things well. It's about doing things flawlessly so we don't feel exposed. Symptoms of perfectionistic leadership include you don't delegate because no one can do it like you. You procrastinate because it's never quite ready. You hyperfixate on feedback, or you experience constant imposter syndrome. Perfectionism tells you that your value is in the result, but God says your value was settled at the cross, not your checklist. Now, here's where it gets a little even deeper, because I've been training in functional wellness. I'm realizing how much these patterns don't just affect our hearts, they affect our hormones and our health. When we're living in overfunctioning, people-pleasing, and perfectionism, we keep our nervous system in a chronic state of stress. That looks like cortisol overload and dysregulation, dysregulated blood sugar, poor sleep and digestion, hormone imbalances, and emotional reactivity. And here's what most leaders don't know. A dysregulated nervous system actually changes the way that you lead. You're less creative, you're less patient, you're more defensive, and you're more reactive. You might still be showing up, but you're not operating from your full, healthy, spirit-aligned best self. You were never designed to lead in survival mode. Wholeness is actually a leadership strategy and a kingdom mandate. Let's go back to scripture, because Jesus didn't just lead with wisdom, he led with rhythm. Mark chapter 6, verse 31, Jesus says to his disciples, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." That was after intense ministry. He didn't say, "Great job, keep going." He said, "Come away and rest." 1 Kings chapter 19, Elijah crashes after his greatest victory. He hides. He says, "I've had enough." And God doesn't say, "Get back out there." He sends rest, food, water, then the still, small voice. Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. We say this one a lot here. "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and you will find rest for your souls." God doesn't separate leadership from rest. He knows that spiritual power comes from alignment, not achievement. So how do we begin to lead from a place of wholeness? What does it look like practically to lead from a whole place? Let me give you a few real world practices that I've seen bring quite a bit of transformation. First of all, name what's driving you. Before you say yes, commit to something, or offer to just take it on, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this from a place of calling or from compulsion? Name the fear that's behind the impulse to say yes and overcommit. It might be rejection, failure, or missing out, or not being seen as competent. Strategy number 2, regulate before you respond. Before sending that email or making that call or addressing that conflict, just stop. Stop and do 90 seconds of deep breathing. Regulate your nervous system so that your response is rooted in peace, not panic and reactivity. Number 3, practical strategy number 3, anchor in scripture-based identity. Pick one verse that reminds you who you are outside of your role. Some of my favorites include Galatians chapter 1, verse 10. I am not trying to please people, but God. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. I have not been given a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. In Psalm 46, verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. Write these down. Speak them out loud before meetings or when doubt creeps in. Strategy number 4, protect time for soul and body restoration. This isn't indulgent. It is actually leadership maintenance. Block time for prayer, reflection, movement, healthy meals, and time margin in your day. If your calendar reflects only your output, it's time to realign it with your values. I'll be honest, this kind of leadership still feels countercultural, especially in the world of healthcare, corporate, and ministry environments that expect more of us all the time. But every time I lead from a place of wholeness instead of hustle, I am reminded that I'm not leading for approval of man. I'm leading from a place of alignment with God. And the more I root myself in God's peace, the more influence I carry without even trying. So let me ask you, where are you overfunctioning? Where are you people-pleasing or striving for perfection? And how is your body, your nervous system, your emotions, your energy? How is it trying to tell you it's time to lead differently? You were not called to lead from burnout. You were called to lead from belovedness. Let's stop proving. Let's start leading from peace. Let's remember we lead better when we're whole, with grace and purpose. Until next time, lead well, live well, and be well, my friend. I pray this episode blessed you, spoke to you, or encouraged you in some way. If so, please share it with a friend and head on over to Apple Podcasts to leave me a review. That's the only way for me to know if you're enjoying the show. Nothing blesses me more than to hear from you. Also, come on over to our free Facebook community. This is a great place for us to support one another on our faith and leadership journeys. You can find the link to the group in the show notes or go to gracefilledleader.com/community. If you have questions or content ideas for the show, please send me a message on SpeakPipe or via email. Go to gracefilledleader.com/contact and leave a written or voice recorded message. I would love to know how I can best serve you on the podcast. Now to Him who can do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. Ephesians 3, verse 20. Until next time, my friends, God bless.